The first of the shortlisted books is The Enemy by Charlie Higson. I found this one a really amusing read. I don't normally read it or watch a lot of zombie kind of horror, but this is filled with gore and guts, but it has got a moral to the story in it. It's a really interesting read, and I think it will appeal to certain audiences very much, so I think this will be a popular book. This is Halo by Zizou. I really enjoyed this book because it felt like a mix. It had the feel of a historical novel, but then just this sprinkling of magic. So it was almost quite subtle, so it was brilliant. It felt magical. It has some really likeable characters, some very funny moments, and just all in all, a good plot. It wasn't predictable at all. You kept thinking you'd worked it out, and then something else had happened, something else be thrown in. So yeah, it's just a brilliant book, and I think it would appeal to both genders, and so it's a very promising book. This is Nobody's Girl by Sarah Manning. It may appear to be a chick lit, but I actually think it has a lot more depth than that. It's got a really gritty, honest storyline and characters who are familiar and real, and I think it's a lot that people can relate to. Certainly I felt there were things that happened in the book I could link to experiences I'd had, and but at the same time it has humour, and so it's heartwarming ultimately, but I feel it's really genuine and truthful, and I think that makes for a very good book. The next novel is Out of Shadows by Jason Wallace. This one is fascinating because it's set somewhere that I've never encountered a book written about, and so in that way just the setting makes it a really interesting read because it's an insight into a totally different way of life, a different time, so that was great. But on top of that, it also had a really brilliant storyline and style of writing, so sometimes you'd be crying and sometimes laughing, and that the characters really likeable, so I think it had everything. It had all the ingredients to be just a really good book. This next book is Revolver by Marcus Sedgwick. It's the shortest of the books, but you do feel that each word has really earned its place, so it's a gift of a novel. It has a very unusual setting again. It has a really compelling storyline and just intriguing characters, so it is a very unusual read. It's a unique book, but I think it's fascinating, really good book. The next novel is Unhooking the Moon by Gregory Hughes. I loved reading this book. It's got a really funny feel to it, but at the same time is a deeply moving book. The characters are hilarious and quirky, but also real, and you get sucked in, you can't put it down, but then when it finishes you want more, and I think that's a really important characteristic in a book, the feeling that you want to carry on reading it once you've put it down. I think it stays with you as well. It's hard to get out of your head. So in that way I just thought this was a brilliant read.